All right, here we go. Dear David, how would you answer a Muslim that tries to show the violence of the Old Testament as a way of justifying the violence of the Quran? Like, the Old Testament is filled with violent passages, yet you choose to believe Christianity is peaceful. It's for the same reason I believe Islam is peaceful despite some violent verses. There are lots of issues to discuss when you're dealing with violence in the Old Testament, its relationship to the New Testament, and so on. But as far as this particular argument is concerned, it's the situations are completely reversed. In the New Testament, you have the commands of Christ. Nowhere does Christ command us to harm anyone. He commands just the opposite. So you can say, hey, there is violence in the Bible, particularly associated with the conquest of Canaan and then holding the land against enemies and so on, because the Old Covenant is tied to a piece of land. And so holding a piece of land involves warfare and things like that. The New Testament is not tied to any piece of land, and Christians are commanded to love everyone, to harm no one, to love our enemies, and to pray for those who persecute us. So notice the progression is from violence that has to do with an old covenant that has now been replaced by a new covenant in which you are not allowed to fight for Christ in the sense of violently subjugating people or commanding people to convert to Christ, and if they don't, you attack them. There's none of that. In the Quran, the situation is exactly reverse. The peaceful commands are earlier, and the final marching orders are the commands to fight those who do not believe in Allah, things like that. And so if you just look at the two texts, you read them from beginning to end, and you ask yourself, what's the takeaway message? What are the final marching orders? If I believe this book, what am I supposed to do now? If you ask that about the Bible, you'd say, I'm commanded to love everyone, to harm no one, to do good to everyone, to live in peace with all men. If you read the Quran and ask, what am I commanded to do? It's going to depend on what sort of circumstances you're in, but the ultimate goal is that Islam calls for the violent subjugation of the world. And so very different messages. And so anyone who says, hey, I can interpret the Quran peacefully because there are violent verses in the Bible, and if you get to say Christianity is a religion of peace in spite of those violent verses, then I can say Islam's a religion of peace in spite of the violent verses. You can say the Quran's a book of peace, but if that's your argument, that is a very, very poor argument.
There's another brief way to put it, too. I would say Christians are called to follow Jesus. Jesus doesn't teach any violence. Muslims are called to follow Muhammad. He's the man who said that if you come to God before God on Judgment Day without any scars, you come deficient. That the greatest thing to do in the world is to get martyred. That everybody has to fight. If you don't fight, then you're a hypocrite. Surah 9 of the Quran, read it. Starting from 927 through 945. If you just read carefully, you'll find that Muslims are supposed to make Islam prevail over every religion. So you compare following Muhammad to following Jesus. That's the end of that. When it comes to the Old Testament, yeah, there are questions to answer, but that's not what we're called to follow as Christians.